So, surprise, surprise, somehow I enjoyed episode 2 a lot more this time. Lower Decks is, very strange. I actually don't know what to think of it still, 2 episodes in. Episode 1 I said was very, very average and pretty disappointing, to the extent that I didn't really feel happy talking about it. I felt kind of depressed talking about it, and I sound very depressed in my review talking about it. But episode 2 I found myself enjoying a lot more. I still had some of the same problems that I did with episode 1, but for the most part I thought it was a very enjoyable experience, something to just switch your brain off to and watch. The jokes in this one felt a lot more less like a parody and more just like a piss take on what Star Trek is, you know, like pointing out flaws in Star Trek and just kind of making jokes about them rather than, oh look, we're just going to make a mockery of everything, you know. It was more personal jokes, more focused jokes, more satire than parody, if you know what I mean, and I enjoyed that a lot more. So, the plot, let's get straight into the plot right away because I've got less to criticize this time, so I may as well just talk story. So the main plot of this episode essentially starts when Boimler claims that he's been given the best job on the ship, which is to escort a Klingon general down to a planet so that he can present some peace accords. And, you know, straight away it starts off with a pretty great concept, you know, a more comedic side of the Klingons, trying to, you know, really pick apart their way of life and stuff. I mean, we see that in TNG and stuff, how they are presented as quite humorous, despite their big, brutish kind of appearance. And we get a lot of that, which is done in the way of him becoming really, really drunk because of Mariner. Now, before I really dive more into that plot, I do just want to say I still hate Mariner so much. She is literally the embodiment of every Mary Sue ever created, you know, and I hate that word because I do think that a lot of the time the word Mary Sue is used really too much, but I really don't like Mariner. She acts so perfect all the time. Every situation she's in, she's always got a way out of it, and just like every other time, here she just happens to be best friends with this Klingon general, and she just takes over the whole mission, sidelining Boimler again, which I guess you could just say is just the running joke of the series. But again, like I said last week, I do not think that interrupting characters all the time is funny, and it shouldn't be, and I think they need to learn from that and stop writing better stuff. But yeah, so Mariner knows the Klingon, and she gets him completely wasted on board the shuttle, claiming that that is the best way to do that. And it is funny to see this Klingon like really off his face, because, you know, that's how I imagine Klingons always are. Like, something I've always wondered is, do people get charged for like drunk driving in Star Trek, drunk flying, drunk space travel, you know? And we see that he flies off in the shuttle, he steals it while he's drunk, and the main plot of the episode is that they are essentially walking across this planet, which, sorry, I can't remember the name of. I tried to look it up but I couldn't find it, and they are trying to find this Klingon general. And I think this is why I really enjoyed this episode a lot more, because we get to see a lot more, like I said, focused Star Trek jokes, not necessarily just parodies. As they're walking across this planet, there's loads of different districts, so you get to see loads of different races from Star Trek. We get some Andorians, which in my opinion we don't see enough of in Trek as it is, so it's nice to just see the Andorians, get some focus. And then we also get a lot of races that previously probably haven't been talked about before. Like, there's a race that they call the Kaylon. Let's not get that confused with the superior Kaylon from the Orville. But, you know, they do encounter a lot of races that I think have been referenced before, but the majority of people won't know. Like, there's this kind of not velociraptor. You know that dinosaur from Jurassic Park that sprays venom out of its mouth while its fins kind of like fan up around it? There's an alien like that, which I believe is in the animated series, although I haven't personally watched all of the animated series. It's the only one I haven't, so I can't really say for sure how accurate that was, but I believe it is a nice little throwback to TOS, which I think is pretty cool. And yeah, just a lot of like nice little Easter eggs on this kind of walk through. It's like the planet in Star Trek V, you know, the Peace Planet, the Galactic Peace Planet. It's like that, but a lot bigger with a lot more races on it. And yeah, so it's a fun watch. It's got a nice little neat primary plot. Although Mariner, like I said, she gets in the way a lot. Nowhere near as much as the last episode, but enough to really kind of annoy me, you know? Like, there's this massive bar fight that breaks out in an Andorian bar, and of course she's the one to just jump up and stop it, give them all money, buy everyone drinks as if she's just got all that money out of nowhere, you know? It's just like, how? Come on, can we just have an episode where Boimler gets to, you know, do his own thing, where we get to see Boimler take center stage without Mariner getting in the way every 5 seconds, because like I said, interrupting just isn't funny. But like I said, again, it was a lot less over the top this time. It felt like the first episode was something they just wanted to be like, look, this is Lower Decks, we want to make it as over the top as possible, and now it's more, yeah, we've done that, let's start focusing on Trek a bit more. You know, this felt more personal, like we get to see how Boimler nearly drops out of Starfleet and it's really personal to him. And you know what, when he threw his badge on the floor, I felt, you know what, I actually have respect for this character. You know, I didn't feel like that at all last week, but this time I felt like I was a bit more closer to these characters and I understood them a bit more. And we get more of that kind of more personal, relatable character style of storytelling in the secondary plot, where we follow Ensign Rutherford. Yes, I remembered his name this time, but in case you didn't, he is the cyborg character, and he's trying to find a new department to work in because he wants to watch a galactic kind of cosmic event with Ensign Tendi, who he clearly likes, and I think she clearly likes him as well. And because he can't make it because he's always climbing through the Jeffries tubes and doing various other engineering tasks, so he goes on this kind of massive trip across the ship to try and, you know, try out all the departments, and I thought that was pretty funny. We got some pretty good jokes regarding how each department works. We got to see security and jokes within, you know, him trying to do command training, like he does a similar test to the Kobayashi Maru, except different circumstances, and the commander says stuff like, you should just use the Janeway protocol, and obviously he doesn't know what that is, but the joke is everyone knows the Janeway protocol, so he doesn't bother explaining it. I thought that was kind of funny. But from what I can get from the episode, the Janeway protocol essentially means just keep going ahead even if it gets dangerous, you know what I mean? Because that's what we see a lot in Voyager. Just keep going, but be on your guard, you know what I mean? Because that would explain why they crashed straight into the asteroid seconds later. But I think in these scenes, yeah, we had the medical part as well, but I didn't find it as funny as the security section where he meets up with Shax, yet again, not to be confused with the better Shax from Destiny 2 and Destiny, but yeah, so he goes to do the security trials, and they go to the holodeck, and a joke that actually did get to me was a joke where he says, "Computer, initiate program Smorgasbord," and I don't know why that really made me laugh. So yeah, overall the episode was a lot more funnier this time round. I felt entertained throughout. I didn't feel like it felt like a cheap Final Space Rick and Morty comedy. It felt like it had its own personality this time, like it felt Star Trek, not in the same way that, you know, the original Lower Decks episode felt, but it felt Star Trek enough that it felt like a spoof, yet also Star Trek. Like, I could believe it was in the world this time. I could believe that these were just incompetent officers. You know what I mean? Like last week I said, it felt like these were so incompetent that they shouldn't be in Starfleet and I couldn't view them as canon, whereas this week it just felt like, yeah, they're not the best and they make a lot of mistakes, but I could believe that they're in Starfleet this time around. I could believe that this is a ship in this episode. But yeah, overall, a lot more entertaining. I've probably missed quite a bit of the story, but if I have, it's because it's just not relevant. You know, the plots aren't too difficult to understand, and I think that's just because they're trying to make an animated series that reaches a really wide variety of audiences, which I personally don't agree with. I think it should be made for Star Trek fans, but you know, it feels like it's made for that Rick and Morty audience and that Final Space audience. But you know what? Whatever gets people into Star Trek at the end of the day, and I said last week, don't watch this if you want to get into Star Trek, because I really didn't like that episode. But this week, I'm going to completely do a 180 and say, if you like Rick and Morty and you like Final Space, watch this episode, because it was actually pretty entertaining, and it might even make you think, hey, I'm missing out on quite a bit, I might want to watch more Star Trek after you see it. Because this one was good, you know, it was good. It wasn't just average like last week's. And you know what, I'm actually looking forward to watching this week's one, because if they can keep going up and getting better and better, like this one improved from last week's, this show could finally stand on its own, and I think that would be a really great thing. Star Trek needs a really good animated series to get people invested in a way that the shows can't. I think they need something that's more similar, akin to the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels, but this is a good stepping stone towards that. And as long as we keep getting more kind of niche little jokes that expand on the lore in ways that we don't really get in the main shows, I'll be more than happy. Like I said, I really enjoyed seeing someone just drunkenly fly a shuttlecraft, and there was also the joke that he parks the shuttlecraft in a place he's not supposed to, and there's just tickets all over it. Like, I like that there's still ticket officers in the 24th century. I think that's a really cool thing that we don't get to see in the shows, and I think it's pretty funny that there's Starship Shuttle ticket men that go and put bills on inappropriately parked shuttlecraft. And I also find that interesting that this kind of proves that the Federation has some kind of monetary system. There's been a lot of argument about that, how Starfleet has no money and it's all perfect and socialist, but no, they make you pay if you park your shuttle somewhere, which means that everyone has to have money, because if you didn't have money and you parked your shuttle somewhere, how are you going to pay for the bill? What happens if you don't pay for the bill? Does some Federation bailiff come and kick your door down? This is the stuff that we need more of in this show. Rather than just stupid parody, we need this really niche kind of joke humor that makes the universe just feel more alive, more real, less grand and epic, more personal and niche. And yeah, I'm going to end it there. I think that's a good place to end the review. I think I've explained it enough. It wasn't brilliant, it wasn't the best animated episode I've ever seen, but I'm obviously more into it this time round. But the problems with Mariner constantly interrupting the plot, and some of the jokes being still a bit too over-the-top parody-like, hold it back a bit, and if it can continue to get better and focus more on them really good jokes, this show has a lot more potential than it did last week. And because of that, I think this time I'm going to give Lower Decks Episode 2 a 6 out of 10. Yeah, only 1 point up from last week, but still an improvement. Hopefully next week we can get a 7 out of 10. But yeah, thanks for watching guys, and if you like this video, remember to hit that like button and subscribe, hit that notification bell to catch all these reviews as soon as they go live, and as always, I will see you on the next video.